Hey guys, welcome back to Ewetopia, my all-sheep island. I'm Tofu, and today we're going to be renovating every single villager home on my all-sheep island. So, let's start off with Stella's home here, and jump right into it, shall we? So we start off with Stella's home, and my headcanon for Stella is that she is the farmer of the island. So she has a giant wheat field in front of her home, and so we're going to naturally be doing a farmhouse for her. She also does have a little farmhouse cafe on the side. So it's got little elements of actually being a cafe, somewhere you can buy snacks and, fancy drinks and things. But first of all, we do the wallpaper, the flooring, as I always do whenever I do a home remodeling. However, I desperately wanted to do this idea that uses stairs in the background, and so I found this amazing code. I'm going to have the creator code up on screen and in the description if you also would like to use these particular sets of codes. I can't actually pronounce the name, but they did such a fantastic job and I knew I had to use it once I saw it. So massive shout out to them. And then we get onto the main body now that I've actually done all the wall stickers and made it look like there is an upstairs to her home. And it's mostly like a kitchen kind of towards the back of the room. So going to be plenty of wood tones. I use a lot of the ironwood style kind of kitchen furniture for this room, but I think it suits Stella down to a T once we get it completely finished. And I absolutely love the wooden counters. I love using the brick variant usually, but I thought the wood tones kind of suited this build a bit better. And being any kind of rustic farmhouse like shop or cafe, I thought a retro ice cream stall just made sense. And there's going to be plenty of obviously produce for sale, and I'm going to have a few flowers and things available as well, because she does have the giant flower garden, the flower ring, kind of close to her home as well, so I thought it made sense that that's incorporated. But then I placed various snacks, so fruit, the various veg basket and things, and some organic bread, and then we're just dotting down various cooking utensils for her to use in her cafe. Because it's Stella and I do love her so much, I did want to make it so that there was a decent enough kind of pink theming around it, so hence the pink wallpaper that I have chosen and then the pink columns. But I didn't want it overbearingly pink. I think that can get a bit too in your face. But now we're just getting the finishing touches and things like various bits of art on the wall. I actually changed it so that you don't have the windows, just so that I can then make the various things like the frying pans, like that rack, and the bottles just to, fit on the wall properly. And I like it. I certainly think it's got a very rustic feel. And then we just put up these hanging signs and obviously change it so that it shows off drinks and a lunch menu or something like that. Fantastic. Then I actually bring in Stella just to have a look and see how she fits. And doesn't she look darling? Then we move on to Kurlos, and I actually really like his home. He's one of the few villagers on this island that I actually just think his home's cool. However, he on the island is this farmer, and so he lives quite close to Vesta, very close to the gyroid garden, but his main role is that he has a small tomato patch that's a little bit just behind his home, and so we're mostly going with this, again, farming kind of gardener role. So in his home he's going to have this very small garden, like hence the dirt or field flooring that I've used. I've then used the decking rugs just to make it seem like he actually has part of his home, that he's not just walking on dirt. But then we have the wood partitions to separate the dirt area from the living space, and obviously the cocoa trees and the greenhouse box as well, just really emphasising that whole green thumb and gardening motif that he's got going on. I end up using the Moroccan sofa, which is one of my favourite furniture items in the game. When it comes to just home interiors, I use it so much, and I just love the style. And I love the different colour variations. I think it's just so good. But obviously being a aspiring gardener, he's going to have a little workbench and various planters and things. Obviously he's got to have the bonsai trees because that's what he's going to be doing for fun. Like, that's his hobby, naturally. I do put a record player. I'm not actually sure that I put any music in his home, so that might be a bit of a common theme in most of these homes. But because he is the tomato farmer, I thought I'd put down a few tomato based snacks. So he's got some tomato juice and I think a tomato bagel, and then just little things like a plant starter and the watering can I thought made sense. Just other little things around the walls, so obviously the dried flowers. I end up using the dried flower garlands quite a lot in these builds. I think they're just really fun. Very much a natural kind of cottagecore item. Next we move on to Vesta, and as I mentioned previously, she is the owner of the gyroid garden. So this home is very much going to be incorporating gyroids. So she's the main carer of the gyroids. I've almost given her a little bit of a workshop as such, without being a workshop, I guess. But we are going for a very natural, very stone-based home interior, hence the use of the bricks. Obviously the bricks with the ivy as the wallpaper, the various stone wallpaper as well, and I've used those counters with the brick top, which I love so much. I've seen a few people do this before and I really wanted to do it. I used the bath, and then obviously I've put the gyroids on the wall and just lowered them down so it looks like they're being washed. I thought it was just a fun and cute little idea. Then naturally I put a lot more gyroids onto this back counter, and it's going to be very noisy, very full of life when I eventually put the music in. I did try and create quite a variation when it comes to the colours and just the different types of gyroids. I really struggled to find that rose rug for some reason, but yeah, it was all good in the end. And like with all of these homes, I have actually made them in the Sketchroom app that you get through, I think, doing something like 12 days of Happy Home Paradise, and you have to have unlocked all the soundscapes from Wardle, so I think that was like 45 homes or something like that until you finally get the last set. But yeah, that made it really helpful so that obviously I could then design every home, use all the items, I could take reference photos, so I was using reference photos from my phone whilst recording this. And yeah, it made it really helpful and made it generally quick. I do have the occasion where I lose items, but that's bound to happen, the menus are so big. But because Vesta is part of the gyroid garden and she has a natural gardening space as well, I thought the incorporation of a few plants, so I thought the Sacó branches was a really nice touch. Obviously I really like the brick with the ivy as a wallpaper, especially as the main wall, I guess. I can't think of the actual word I want to use. But then I've also dotted a few things like the terrarium, the little bamboo sphere, and I thought these various door decorations, like the reefs and things, made a nice splash of colour, and just feels like something she would actually do, something she would make in her free time. It's like a bit of a hobby. I eventually choose Forest Life because I thought that was very fitting for the music, and then obviously the gyroids dance along. Now we move on to Willow, and she is our resident, I guess, clergy, for want of a better word. She is the wedding registration villager, I guess, because her home is very close to the outdoor natural wedding space that we have on the island, and so yeah, she's the one that officiates all of these and helps villagers get married if they so wish. This was one of those moments where I actually really struggled trying to find various items for her. It's mostly from the wedding set that you obviously get from Reese and Cyrus during the, is it June wedding season? But yeah, I was expecting them all to be kind of close together for some reason, and they weren't. They're all dotted around. Obviously the tables are in the tables, the chairs are in the chairs, etc, etc. So that kind of threw me for a little bit, but then once I realised that, I kind of got on it. And for some reason, I'm not sure why, I did struggle with the positioning with a lot of these furniture items, especially the chairs and the church pews, the benches, just because I wanted these counters just towards the back, but for some reason I really couldn't work out the size of the area that I needed, so yeah, it just threw me. I put some flowers because there are going to be quite a few flowers dotted around this build, just because I think it's very colourful and very fitting if it's meant to be a wedding venue. I put down the music speaker, and I do actually go in and add some music eventually, which is why I move the chairs over ever so slightly so I can actually squeeze by and do that. But I'm just putting down a few items again, like the heart bouquets, the flower petals and things. And now we're actually moving on to the song choice. And I ended up going with KK Love Song because that was the best choice that I had available to me. Now we're moving on to the wall decorations, and I use a lot of the party garlands in most of my builds as well. Again, it's just a nice pop of colour, but I think the gold, white and then the black variant just create like a nice splash of colour without being too over the top. And I added the sheep mobile just because I thought it was really cute and very fitting, because it is obviously Sheep Island, and naturally Willow needs all of her certifications like on the wall to display that she is official, and yeah, she's able to actually do this. Okay, so next up we have Dom, who was my starter on this island, and he lives in a mini neighbourhood along with Kashmir, and they have two main bits to that neighbourhood, and there is a small pen for sheep and there's a hidden reading area, and so Dom is going to be the one who looks after the sheep pen, so his house is going to be decorated accordingly. And so I've got it that he has almost like a meadow in his home, and he's going to have various sheep items, so he's basically looking after sheep within his house. It's a sheep villager looking after sheep. It's a bit meta, but it's fine. So there's going to be a lot of very light wood tones when I do use the wood. I use a lot of the things like hay. I use wheat fields a lot. I do use a couple of the grass pop-ups. I forget what they're officially called. That seems to be a common theme for this recording, so I'm sorry, my bad. And I really struggled trying to find a particular item, which was the Aries rocking horse, just because it's got a ram, or like a sheep motif. I ended up throwing down the wheat, just because I happened to find it. And yeah, I'm just throwing down all the items that I know I can actually find until I find that particular rocking horse. So with a little humidifier, I do actually put down Eunice's photo, because I did unlock her at Happy Home Paradise, and she's one of the few sheep that hasn't featured on this island. So we did have a twirl, and unfortunately I did have to move her on. I felt I didn't really earn her, because obviously I scanned her in to get rid of chops. But yeah, I haven't had Barbara, and I haven't had Pietro. Pietro is on my other island, so I don't feel the need to do that. Unfortunately, I didn't unlock Barbara in Happy Home Paradise, so I couldn't do the same for her. So maybe she'll turn up on a future island. But then I eventually found the sheep rocker, the Aries rocker, and I've put down various plants. I then actually tried putting down the design code I have for the umbrellas for the sheep that I've used on the various areas around the island, and then you can't use those custom codes within a villager's home, which really was upsetting because that was the whole idea. So I ended up just duplicating the Aries rocker, and they become the sheep that Dom are going to look after. And I really struggled finding items in this particular home. I'm not sure why. I did do this recording, like the building recording, very late, and so maybe I was just starting to get tired. And I put the party garlands up and then realised that it was on the wrong wall. So yeah, again, I'm gonna knock that down to just getting tired and a bit of fatigue. Obviously, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I love a good indoor plant, and so I put down the coconut planters, I put the wall planters as well, along with a couple of dried flower bouquets. I think it sets it off really nicely, and it gives that nice country feeling. As I mentioned previously, Dom lives closer to Kashmir, and so Kashmir is going to be the one that has the major interest in reading. So she's going to be the main person that uses that secret reading area that's hidden away by trees and the various wheat fields and things. So she's going to have a very book-heavy home interior. So I've used the bookshelf wallpaper as the accent wall. That was the word I couldn't actually think of earlier, but I digress. We're going to have plenty of books dotted around. We've obviously got the bookshelf in the dark wood variant, which I love oh so much. I think that's probably one of my most used items as well, along with the Moroccan sofa. There's plenty of areas to sit and just grab a book at her own leisure, so there's plenty of cushions. Obviously there's the blue sofa. She does have a little bit of interest when it comes to plants, so hence the bonsai tree and then the yucca inside as well. And even though the carpet and obviously the accent wall is very dark, I wanted it to still feel light and airy, which is why I ended up using the other wallpaper. It just makes it feel a little bit lighter, a little bit more friendly. And even when she's not reading books, she's got a digital book on her tablet as well, which is in front of the sofa. She's also got a little kitchen, and being the adult that she is that loves reading, I thought a iced coffee would be much appropriate, and I do love an iced coffee myself. I thought the sunflower painting by Van Gogh was very fitting in this home as well, and obviously, like I've said before, I've got to dot plants in anywhere I can. It's pretty much a law, just with my builds. So a lot of wood tones, but again, I think it's very friendly. It still feels bright enough with the use of the other wallpaper. Okay, then we move on to Frita, who is the owner of the orange orchard. And her home is extremely busy, and I do end up recreating something that's probably just as busy, but I like to think it's a little bit more organised chaos. So obviously with that dining wallpaper, that had to come down because that's a bit of an eyesore. And I really like Frita, but yeah, her home is a bit of a mess. So with her owning the orange orchard, I want it to feel very orange. There's going to be a lot of splashes of green as well, and it's going to be very wood tone heavy and very natural wood tones at that. I do tend to have a preference when it comes to the dark wood tones, but this time I really wanted it to feel light and just very natural. So she's got a very kitchen-based interior theme going on, so hence all the kitchen appliances and things at the back of the room. I'm going to end up using the wooden counters that I've used so many times throughout these builds already, and they are on the right hand side. I've obviously placed down some oranges and some orange boxes because she owns the orange orchard. What would a owner of an orange orchard be without oranges, right? So it's going to be very heavy, yeah, dependence on oranges. And like I said, there's going to be splashes of green. Again, I do like these builds. I think this is very kind of cottagey. makes sense being a cottagecore island, obviously. But yeah, I think it really fits the theme. And I think it really fits in nicely with Frita's job aspirations in New Leaf, that she wanted to be a chef and things. So this fits the bill quite nicely, that she can obviously own the orange orchard and naturally do some cooking and produce some orange-based delights. I feel like this home was definitely one of those ones where I struggled with menus and I couldn't find very specific items that I wanted to use. Again, I am using reference photos in all of the builds, and so I know exactly what items I want. It's just a matter of trying to find them. And sometimes they're really obvious and other times they're not. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain. But I eventually get there. Now obviously just moving on to the various wall decorations. Naturally I use a ironwood clock, but it's in the orange variant. We put the various pots and pans and bottles and things around the kitchen space, because that makes sense. And of course, being me, we're going to put down some plants. But a little splash of colour, so I've changed it so it's like red, yellow, green. And then I almost forgot to add any lighting or the ceiling decor, but noticed in the end. Okay, then we move on to our Goth Queen Muffy, and the first thing I actually did was check the music that was playing, and it was KK Sonata. I just thought it was very fitting for Muffy, and so I end up trying to plonk that into her home eventually when we do add some music. But being the Goth Queen, she's going to have a dark and broody kind of room. So her, along with Wendy and then the newly acquired Timbra, live in a sheep neighbourhood that I built off camera, and I will be showing in my next video, which will be a full tour of the island, so hopefully you're looking forward to that. But they don't have very specific roles. They are kind of around various gardens and little farm patches. But yeah, these are mostly just random kind of roles I've given them. So naturally Muffy is going to be the Goth Queen. She's just going to have an elegant, very dark based room because of that. Like I said, I haven't really given her a very specific role, but I do think the room overall fits her personality eventually when we obviously get it completed. Hopefully you'll agree, and if you think so, maybe drop a comment or two. There's going to be lots of moody lighting, so we've gone with the elegant lamp. Obviously there's the marigold decoration. I do end up using a fortune telling set on this table in the corner here, and that's got a little candle as well. And yeah, it's just more little pockets of lighting, again just adding that little bits of atmosphere. I do add a cushion so she can obviously do her fortune telling set when she wishes to, you know, convene with the spirits and whatnot, but I thought the skull cushion was a little bit over the top, so I ended up changing the design ever so slightly. And just in my headcanon, I've got a lot of the sheep villagers into reading, and so my favourite bookcase comes out, and obviously in my favourite colour being the dark wood variant. But she's also got a antique console. Again, I'm really struggling to think of the words of the actual items, so sorry about that. But yeah, when she obviously has her makeup and anything like that, she can sit down in front of the mirror and things and just feel like a fancy lady. Again, just a few dotted dried flowers around, a little bit more moody lighting with the iron lamps, and then we add Muffy's photo above the fortune telling set as well, because it feels a little bit just more kind of natural for her, I suppose. And then I do remember to actually add her music back into her home, which is fantastic. Then we move on to Timbra, who is the newest member of the island. And I decided that I wanted to make her almost like a tailor. So I know that Vesta, technically speaking, has like a tailor's theme, but because she is already on the island as the keeper of all the gyroids and obviously the gyroid garden caretaker, I thought Timbra could fill this role of just tailor and clothes repair, clothes making, you know, all that sewing and good stuff like that. So her home is obviously decorated accordingly. She's going to have lots of clothing racks, plenty of various clothing items, so shirts, just sewing kits, a couple of the shoe boxes I think I use, and I do in the corner there. But these are going to be very natural and warm tones compared to what we just obviously use for Muffy, where it's very dark and kind of broody, like I said. Again, use of the Moroccan sofa, I love it oh so much. And again, more plants, because I can't help myself. I've got a major problem. It's just, I love the plants. Like, in my first ever villager home, in fact it wasn't even villager home, my personal home in the game, my first island, I had a attic that was just a, like I say, plant conservatory, if you will. So I filled it with pretty much every plant that I could fill in that room. I did add the old wooden radio into this build. I thought I would try and change the music, but I think it just plays randomly, and so once I found that out, I then just went back into the build and started plonking down various accessories. So we've got fashion magazines, like I said, the shirts and sweaters and things, various office supplies, so like sewing supplies, things like that, on top of the clothing rack, along with maybe a box that she needs to send out to clients, and some more sewing based accessories and things, so sewing kit, the actual sewing machine, a little stool so she has a space to work. And I really love the botanical rug as well. It's probably one of my favourite rugs, but I try not to use it too often because I could easily use it in pretty much any home I wanted. She is one of the few villagers that actually has a TV in her home, and I do love doing that, generally speaking. So have the sofa facing the wall and have the wall mounted TV. One of my favourite combos. And last but not least, we move on to Wendy. And she was one of the first villagers that I obviously managed to get hold of in, I think it was the very first villager hunt. So we had Dom as a starter, and then Wendy came onto the island very quickly, hence the very generic home interior that she had. And I have had Wendy before on my jungle island of Tanglewood, and so I tried making something a bit different compared to the home interior that I did for her on that island. So she, somewhat like Stella, has a bit of a chef, like cafe-esque feel going on, but I've tried making it kind of grey and very muted tones. Again, just to be very different compared to what I did. I think I did very light and airy wood tones on the other island, so I wanted it just to feel different. Still obviously feel a little bit personal to Wendy, but yeah. Plenty of obviously grey. I've used a lot of darker wood tones in this particular build. Again, very different compared to the last home interior that we just did. There's going to be various few cooking accessories, so the microwave, the rice cooker, obviously the stand mixer as well. And then I just place a few things down. I think it makes sense just because obviously there are a few farm areas dotted around these homes as well, so she's going to have just a few kind of food options available to her. So I've gone with the minestrone soup because of any tomatoes and things that you might find, and then the mushroom pizza. You know, she does some foraging, she does some picking, she does some growing. Like everything is grown by herself, and I guess the surrounding villages as well. Hopefully you like everything that I did, and yeah, let me know which one is your favourite. And so guys, that is every villager home on the island redesigned. So, hopefully you enjoyed everything I did, and if you did enjoy, please hit like and consider subscribing if you haven't done already. As for the last thing we need to do on the island, I need to show it off in all its entirety. So, we're going to be doing a full island tour, showing off everything on the island in my next video. So hopefully, I'll see you there. And until next time, I'll say thank you very much, hope to see you in the next video, and until the next time, have a good one. Cheers guys!